There are only 2 teams remaining in the NBA playoffs battling it out in the NBA Finals, which means for the other 28 teams in the league, they have officially shifted their focus towards the offseason. Every team has a different set of needs, they enter this period of the year with different goals in mind, and they all obviously have different assets at their disposal to use in order to accomplish those goals. Some teams aim high, hoping to acquire pieces that make them a contender, some teams are in rebuild mode, developing their young talent for the future, and others are just trying to make good, solid progress. Ever since the arrival of LeBron James in Los Angeles, they have been an immediate contender in the mode of hunting championships, and in his second year with the team, they accomplished that goal of winning a championship, but as LeBron's time in the league dwindles down, they're trying to give him every chance possible to add to his trophy collection before it's all said and done, and this summer, the Lakers have big plans to try to make that happen. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we'll be discussing how exactly the Lakers got into the mess that they're currently in, the major rumors that are swirling revolving their team and some of their biggest assets, whether or not the plan is even realistic, and what it means for them moving forward. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching the games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for the next finals game, I think I'll go with Steph Curry to score over 28.5 points, Robert Williams to grab over 5.5 rebounds, and Jordan Poole to make over 1.5 threes. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The Lakers found themselves in a pretty similar situation last summer that they are now again in this summer. The one big difference is that they actually had more leeway to work with back then, and because of the decisions that they made last summer, have only set themselves even further back. The dead horse has been beaten all year long, so it's not worth going into too much detail about, but by now we all know that when the team chose to go out and acquire Russell Westbrook, that was the beginning of their downfall. They had quite a few solid options last summer as well, as along with Westbrook being on their radar, they were also discussing a deal that could have gotten them sharpshooter Buddy Hield, and on top of that, DeMar DeRozan, who ended up signing with the Chicago Bulls, came out and admitted during the season that if the Lakers wanted him, he would have been willing to take a pay cut to go there, and after the phenomenal season he just had in Chicago, that one's gotta sting a little bit for Lakers fans to hear. Opting to bring in Westbrook pretty much tied up all of their money into their big three, so almost the entire rest of their roster, 10 players to be exact, were all guys signed on minimum contracts last season, and specifically, many of them were older players that were over the hill and struggled to space the floor. They went on to miss the playoffs and the play-in tournament entirely. The fit between Westbrook and LeBron was always clunky and awkward, and now, in the present, the Lakers are entering this summer with only 6 players under contract for the upcoming season, yet no real salary cap space left to spend in free agency. So what can they do? Well, they don't have any draft picks for this year's draft, so that just leaves one final way for them to make significant change, and that is by making some trades. This is where the real meat of the video begins to come into play, and where we'll finally be discussing the piece of information that inspired this video in the first place. See, it's no secret that Russell Westbrook would be the player that they ship out in order to find a deal, but after his performance last season, there might not be worthwhile value to be had in exchange for him. Or would there be? Today, a pretty big piece of information dropped on The Herd with Colin Cowherd when Bill Oram of The Athletic came on as a guest and said that he thinks that a potential Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving trade makes a lot of sense. Now, I'll be honest here, I feel exactly how many of you probably feel when you hear this, as I think it's pretty ridiculous and unbelievably unbalanced in favor of the Lakers. It sounds a lot more like a LeBron James pipe dream than a realistic proposal, but then when you take a step back and look at all of the smoke and rumors that have been reported over the last few weeks, you can't help but think that something big could be brewing, and it's not impossible for this to be it. Literally about a week ago, a Nets reporter for the New York Daily News reported that the Nets are quote-unquote outright unwilling to give Kyrie Irving a long-term extension. This season, Kyrie found himself in headlines for decisions that he made off the court. It was a massive distraction for the team all season long, and it literally forced him to miss over half of the team's games. And when he came back, the team ultimately fell short of expectations, getting swept in the first round of the playoffs by the Celtics. It's not that crazy to think that the Nets just do not want to deal with all of the outside noise that comes with Kyrie Irving, and with only one season left on his current contract, he falls into the same category as Russell Westbrook, who also happens to be on his last year of his contract too. Kyrie Irving clearly is a far more productive, efficient, and better basketball player in the year of 2022, and even Bill Oram on his segment on The Herd admitted that a straight swap 1-for-1 would never work, and if you were to ask me personally, I would never even entertain this kind of deal if I were the Brooklyn Nets at all, but at the same time, I'm not one of the people working in their front office that are clearly fed up with Irving, so how I feel is clearly different than those who are in charge feel. If the relationship between Kyrie and the Nets really has gone sour, then one of the most ideal moves that they can make is a low-risk move for a player who is only guaranteed to be there for one more year that Kevin Durant would sign off on. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were one of the league's premier duos for years until Durant betrayed him by signing with Golden State, but enough time has passed since then for them to have made amends. This could be the opportunity to reunite them to try and avenge things, and then on the flip side, the connection between Kyrie Irving and LeBron James is obvious from their days contending for championships in Cleveland. The only reason LeBron and Kyrie even separated in the first place is because Irving wanted a chance to be the man on a team out of LeBron's shadow, but earlier this season, Irving himself said in an interview that he regrets the decision to leave, and that if he had been more mature at the time, he and LeBron would have won more championships together. So again, there's a potential redemption arc storyline at play. The Lakers may not have many sweeteners at their disposal, but Talen Horton-Tucker and the few draft picks that they have left could still get attached, and it seems like it's at least something that would be considered by both teams. The Lakers were severely lacking in shot creation outside of LeBron last season, and after James Harden left the Nets, they were severely lacking in a player that creates for those around them. Ben Simmons is coming back next season to play for Brooklyn, but after an entire year off, who knows what his play will look like. This would definitely be one of the craziest deals to ever happen in the NBA, but it also wouldn't be the most incomprehensible, and even though I wouldn't do it if I were the Brooklyn Nets, I'm not sure what a better alternative would be for them if they don't want Kyrie Irving there long term. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about this possible move for both teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.